Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Willey, product manager here at OnePlan. Today, we're going to be walking through the OnePlan release notes for the December 4th release that went out last Friday. So the release notes have been posted. If you go into Screen Steps, into the same place where the release notes always are, you can find them there. And or if you're part of our team, then the release notes will be posted in there as well. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. So we'll walk through kind of the key highlights of the release. I'll demo some of those different features and capabilities here, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. So the first thing that came out in this release, kind of major new feature and theme of this release, was really all around what we call insights. Insights allow you to essentially track how you're doing on your project. So you can set up some different rules, and based off of those particular rules, you can then see if people are in compliance, on track, and just kind of bring attention to things that need people's attention within the system. The first place where insights show up are on the new homepage, which is what we're looking at here. And so you'll see up in the top left, I have one or more timesheets that are overdue. So I can then click into that and go take care of that. I have some plans that have less than 75% compliance. Some of my plans have status reports that are due that I haven't yet submitted, so on and so forth. So it's trying to help draw my attention to things that need my attention so we can help keep everything running smoothly, whether that be timesheets or my projects or status reports or whatever it may be. Those rules are actually configurable, so you can go in and you can create your own custom rules and or remove rules that don't apply to your organization, whatever it may be. On the far right on the homepage, we also see our recent conversations. So as you're commenting on different items within the system, we've had the comments capability for a long time. You can now see that here, some of your recent ones right here from the screen, as well as you'll get email notifications for those things. And up in the top right, if you click the little icon here, that will show you any of your in-system notifications that you have not yet seen as well. So you kind of have multiple places to get to those communications that are going on. In the left side, bottom left here, you'll see a list of all of your different plans. The first tab here is all of my recent plans, but then I can tag different plans as my favorites, and they'll show up in the favorites here, or just plans that are shared with me, just I own. You can go to all plans, so on and so forth. And there's also a search built in here. So if I wanted to type in app, for example, it finds all the ones with app in them. So that's just kind of a nice new feature to make it really quick and easy to find the plans you want. And then from there, you could click on one of those plans to go directly to it, or hit the hamburger and jump to specifically where you want. Like I want to go to the resource plan for that plan, whatever it might be. In the bottom right, then you'll see if you have any different tasks that are assigned to you that fit any of the criteria here. So for example, I have some overdue tasks here. I can see what those are, and then I can check them off and actually mark them as complete right from here as well. And or tasks that are due this week or this month. And this link right here will take you into the My Work, so you can look at all of your tasks, not just the ones that fit the criteria for this little widget here on the homepage. So main thing there is there's a new homepage meant to give you some better insights into what's going on in OnePlan, and then you can dive into the areas that you need to get your work done for the day. But also insights tie into the plan level. So if I jump into a particular plan, like if I go into my VoIP phones plan here, for example, there's a small change in the navigation up in the top. If you remember, this used to say dashboard before, if you had the dashboard app enabled. It's been relabeled to reporting, and then under reporting, you have your status reports, your dashboards, and one new option, which is insights. So if I click on insights here, I'll see all of the insights for this particular plan. Up in the top right, you'll see my plan compliance is at 80%, so I'm doing pretty well. But there's a couple of things I can improve on. So down here on the bottom left, we have some problems as well as some just informational kind of warnings. For example, your plan has unsubmitted status reports. So then I could pop into status reports and go take care of that, and some unsubmitted timesheets, and so on and so forth. So you can handle all of those issues, and then essentially that will increase your compliance score there. This is kind of built throughout the system. It's also available for reporting. So if you wanted to do compliance types of reports based off of these insights, you have the ability to do that now in tools like, say, Power BI, for example, as well. So Insights was a really big new feature that came out in this particular release. But along with that, we made lots of other little improvements as well as bug fixes. So let's jump through and take a look at some of the key improvements that were made in this release. The next one is in the Portfolios module. So in the Portfolios module, there's one particular update in here, and it's in the resource what if grid. So if I pop open my resource grid down in the bottom here, previously, all of your resource level fields that you have set up in your system would show up down here. So if you've added custom fields or whatever it may be, those will all show up. And sometimes if you had a lot of fields, that would kind of push all of this way over to the right, and it'd be a little bit hard to look at. You'd then have to go in and click on columns and deselect the columns that you didn't want to see so that you can make a little bit more room. Now we've done two things. One, when you just deselect certain columns, it will remember that. So if I was to close this and open it back up, I wouldn't have to do that again. But also, if you open up the resource plan when you're saving your views in here, it will remember in the views that you save which fields that you have selected. So you can kind of set some default fields that show up in here. So the very first time someone comes in, it'll be set that way to whatever that view was set to as well. So just some usability improvements there in the resource what if area around those fields. The next area that we updated is in the work planner. So if I jump in, I'll go back into my VoIP phones project here, for example, and go into the work planner. We've added the capability essentially to be able to export your work plan to Excel. The option shows up here over in the top right. So if you hit the hamburger here, then you can export to multiple different formats. And when you do that, it's going to export just the visible items on the page though. So whatever items that you have shown on the page. So meaning if I was to expand or collapse this, it's going to export out whatever's expanded. And or if you put any filters here on the page, it's only going to export out the things that you have showing on the page. So if you apply a filter to show only active tasks and then you export it, will only export active tasks. So that gives you a little bit more control of what it actually exports out for that particular capability. So then over here into my timesheets, there were a couple updates that were made in here. The first one is that's my work. I need to go to my timesheet. The first one is just some usability things. For example, when you're in your timesheet and you click on a particular cell, if you hit the tab button on your keyboard, it will now jump from one cell to the next. And when it does so, notice it highlights the value. So I could very easily just change that to 4, hit tab again, and then say 2 and tab again. And the goal there is just to make it really quick and easy to fill out your timesheet. So especially if you're doing just 8 all the way across, you can go 8, tab 8, all the way across, and then put in the different values that you want there, whatever it may be, not 48 and 28, but so on and so forth. Another update that we made in there is we made it so that you can control which plan types show up in the timesheet. So there's a new setting in the admin settings, in the timesheet admin settings, where you can pick and choose plan types. So for example, if you want people to be able to track time on projects but not programs, then you can configure that as such over in the admin settings. The next area that we updated was in the status reports. So I'm going to go and jump back into one of my plans, like my phones plan here. And then we'll go into take a look at the status reports. And essentially, we've had status reports for a while, but down at the bottom, there is a what we call a work item grid that you can add into your status reports. So for example, tasks in progress is one work item grid and another is active issues. Previously, you weren't able to put the assigned resources field in here. You now can. So if you were to go into the status reports admin area, edit this work item grid, you could add in more columns here, and one of those new columns that you can add in is assigned resources, which is kind of a special column within OnePlan. But you can now show that in there if you choose to do so as well. All right, next area that we updated was around the time off functionality. Previously, if you wanted to submit time off, you would go into the resource scheduler And then you could go in there and you could create time off requests, and then someone could approve those, but it was kind of only available there from within the resource scheduler. What we've done is we've essentially added that functionality in a couple other places to make it a little bit easier for the process to flow. The first place where we've added it is in My Work. So up there in the top left, you may notice this new little icon. If you hover over it, it'll say time off. And so if you click on that, you can come in here and you can add time off requests and put your start date, your end date, the amount of hours per day, what type of a request is it, any notes that you want, and then enter that particular time off request into the system. From there, a resource manager or your manager, whoever kind of manages your time off, can go into the resource center itself, and I can then click on each one of these people if I want to view just these particular time requests for a particular person, say Adam Barr here. I can hit that and see any of his different requests and what the status is. But also, we've added this nice little button here. If you click on this, what it does is it filters the view down to just show the people that have pending time off requests. So then if I open up Ehrlich here, I can see that he has a time off request of holiday that is in the requested status. I could then edit this and approve it, and then go, let that process flow. So it just makes it easier to find unapproved requests by clicking that button there that it previously was. All right, the next area that we updated is the resource pool. Within the resource pool or resource center here, there's a new feature. If I come in here and I hit add resource, previously when you typed in users here, it would just show their name. And so the problem was if you have two different resources with the same name, and or if a particular person has two different accounts and their names therefore the same on both of those accounts, it was hard to tell the difference between the two of them. Now what we've done is we've essentially added their email address in here at the end, so you can tell which account is which. So even if two people have the same name, I'll see the email address here, and if I know what their email address is, I can pick the correct one. And or if I have two different accounts with two different email addresses, I can pick the one that I'm looking for. So that just makes it a little bit easier when kind of adding resources into the system and such, to better know who you're adding first if people have the same names. All right, next, not much to demo on these, but I'll just talk through them real quick. There were some different field updates that we made. The first one is there's a today function. And so if you're using roll-up fields, total roll-up fields, to do things like a roll-up to the plan level of how many tasks have been created for this particular plan, for example. You could do that previously, but what you can now do is in there you can use today as a function and say compare today to the due date of the task, and then do total roll-ups like I just want to show tasks that are overdue, where the due date is less than today, for example, meaning it's overdue. So just a new function that you can use in there on some of those total roll-up calculations. The other thing that we did is if you're utilizing the new rate tables that came out in the last release, we've updated some of the calculations around those rate tables to use the new rate table functionality, so to say. So there are two in there that were assignment revenue and assignment costs. Those are now available to be used in all different types of calculations. So for example, if you wanted to create assignment revenue minus assignment cost to get profit, you can do that in any calculated field instead of having to try to refer to the other calculated fields that already do those calculations. And then the other thing is actual revenue. So there's a calculation in there called actual revenue that looks at the amount of chargeable hours you have and then multiplies it by the rate table to give you the actual revenue based off of the new rate tables if you are utilizing them. So that calculation was updated to work with the new rate tables in this release as well. Okay. Next is permissions. Again, nothing here really to demo, but on the permission side of things, we made two different updates, one update. And that is when you assign someone into a particular plan, it will now default them to the My Work only permission level, whereas before it used to make them a team member. So we've just made it so that when they're by default added into a particular plan, so meaning into the shared with in here, so either if you go and assign someone to a task, or if you come to the shared with and share this particular plan with someone, then it will default them to my work only. From there, though, you can change the permissions and up them to whatever you might want to up them to. All right. Next then is in the admin settings, again, nothing really to demo, but there were a couple different admin settings in the system that didn't follow the date format that you set. It now will. So if you've set your date format to a particular region, all of the admin settings will now follow along with that, not just the front end kind of user settings that you see out here. Lastly, there were some performance improvements that were made in this release. Particular, for example, one of them was in the timesheet when you're approving many different timesheets all at once. It used to take a little bit to process those. Now we've changed the way that that works, and so that will process faster and kind of process through the back end as well, along with multiple other performance improvements that you may notice throughout the system. So that was kind of the main key things in the release. There was lots of other little items and bug fixes and all kinds of things, but the main things there being the insights and some other kind of key improvements, usability type things in other areas. So hopefully you enjoy the new release. If you want to opt into the insights functionality, it's an app that you have to install into your environment. To do so, though, you'll need to be licensed for it. So you'll want to make sure to check that you have the appropriate license types for Insights. Get that installed, and then you can start utilizing that new homepage and all the Insights functionality. Everything else you saw there, for the most part, will just take effect in your environment. Nothing that you have to do to opt into that. So with that, we'll call it a day, and in about a month or so, we'll have our next release, and we'll walk through all the new features at that point. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.